And so we just learned how to graph two lines on the same graph, and that's called solving by graphing. But sometimes graphing is not going to be your easiest bet. Maybe because you just don't have a piece of graph paper, okay? So the second method that we're going to learn is solving using substitution. And what substitution means in algebra is exactly what you think it means. It means go all the way back to, 4x minus 3. If x equals -8, then solve that, evaluate that expression. You substitute whatever x is in for x, right? So you would say -8 is x. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to subtract 3 from -32, and I'm going to get -35, and I just use substitution. We're using the exact same concept today. So I'm going to walk you through substitution by doing problems of varying difficulty. So we're going to start with the easiest one, and we're going to kind of equate it to like a video game. So when you get a new video game, there's like levels you have to beat. We've done this before. Level 1 is kind of like that easy level that everybody can kind of pass. Your second grade brother can get through this level. It's not that tricky, right? Okay? So a level 1 looks something like this. And I'm not sure if you saw these because the computer program I used to create these assignments doesn't have this. But a lot of times you'll see two equations written in like a little bracket like this. Okay? So sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. You may or may not see it. So it just means, hey, if I were to graph these two lines on the same coordinate plane, what ordered pair would they meet at? And you guys are probably still in the graphing frame of mind. So when you see that, the first thing you think of is, oh, x equals -1 is a vertical line going through, -1. And then y equals 2x, so here's +7. Then I'm going to go -1, down 2 over 1, or up 2, left 1. Oh, there it is. It meets at whatever that point is. We're not doing that. That was last week, right? Or the beginning of this week. So then if I'm not using graphing, what am I doing? I'm using substitution. So this is called a level 1. The first thing I want you to do is go ahead and just put that. Because we're looking for an x coordinate and we're looking for a y coordinate. And guess what? It's called level 1 for a reason. Because they did half of the problem for you. The very first equation that you're looking at says, hey, x, that x coordinate that you're looking for? Well, I'm going to tell you what it is. It's -1. And so if your job is to fill in both of these spaces and they're giving you one of the answers, that's why it's so easy. So they come right out and say the x is -1. And we equate that to a vertical line, right? Awesome. So now that the first of my two, it's not really two answers, it's one ordered pair. First of my two answers is given. What could I do to find out what my y coordinate would be if I know my x? If the name of the game is substitution, what should I do with that x value of -1? I should substitute it in for x in the other equation. So I'm going to take this -1 and put it right there because that's what x is. Yep. So all you're going to do to figure out your y is take that -1, multiply it by -2, then add 7, and that'll give you your y. Yeah, that's what that equation says. So -2 times -1 plus 7 means that your y value is now 9. And that's why they call it a level 1, because it's pretty easy. Okay? So your goal for this whole section, 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, find that ordered pair if there is one. I'm not even going to do another level 1 problem because that's how easy they are. So can we move on to level 2? Okay. So level 2 is a little bit harder, but not too bad. Level 2 says 2x plus y is equal to -12. And y equals not just 2, because that would be a level 1. We're going to say y equals 2x. Okay? And that adds it's still not too bad. It adds just that little bit of difficulty to it. Well, this puts me starting off in a whole different position because last time, all I had to do was go, oh, hey, cool, I already know one of them. And if you already know one of them, you're kind of home free. Because to get the other one, you just do some substitution. Well, I don't know what y is. I don't know what x is. The only thing I do know is that the y value, whatever it is whatever the x value is times 2. Did you follow that? So y equals 2x means, hey, whatever your y value is, or whatever your x value is, multiply by 2, and that's what you're going to get for your y. Okay, awesome. But I don't know either. So where do I even start? I need either an x or a y. So this is where I'm looking at my two equations. I'm looking at this x and this y, and this x and this y, and your goal, before you can even start any of these problems, is to make sure one of the equations has one of its variables solved for, meaning by itself. And right now, we do. We're in luck. We have a y by itself. So what is y really equal to? 2x. So your y value isn't 2, it's 2x. So I got to do some substitution. Here's the weirdest part. Where do I put that 2x? Do I put it here or here? What is it? It's y. So I put 2x there? Yeah. You want to know the hardest part? Sometimes people are like, well, it has an x in it, so I should make it put it in for the x. No. Does it say x equals 2x? No. It says y is really 2x. So where does that 2x go? In for the y, in the other equation, because it is y. Every time I see y, so you know what that's called? That's called defining y in terms of x. So y is twice of what your x value is. So are you with me? So watch what that means. It means once I figure it out in one equation, I put it in the other. And so let's go to work on that. And y. Y is what? 2x. And that equals negative 12. And then we have a little easy peasy baby one-step equation. Combine your like terms and solve. So I'm dividing by 4. So I am halfway there. I have found out that my x value is negative 3, which is great because once I have one, I can easily find the other, right? But right now what I would recommend is taking that and putting it in the right spot. Which spot does it go in? The first spot, because it's x. So I'm going to put negative 3 there. And so then the second part is you deciding what to do with that negative 3. I need that negative 3 to help me find this spot. So you go back to the original equations and you pick one. And here's the deal. You can't go wrong here. That's what's so awesome about this. You're like, where do I put the negative 3? Do I put it here or do I put it here? And I say, I don't really care. Because you're going to get the same answer both ways, but one way is a little bit harder, and it's a little bit more work. If you had to pick an equation, which one would you choose? Where to put the x? Probably right here. Because right there it's telling you, hey, the y is going to be whatever the x is times 2. So what is negative 3 times 2? Yes. So that's how you know that. But let's say you just kind of panicked and you put it here because you thought you had to. That means 2 times the x value you just found plus the y is equal negative 12. 2 times that's negative 6 plus y. Then you add 6 and you add 6 and you eventually get that negative 6, but wasn't that a whole lot more work? So there's an easier way to do it. So that's the difference between a level 1 and a level 2. Cover that up, it's a level 1. Your y is 2, awesome. Oh, it's 2x, so that means I have to plug it into the other equation. Are you good with a level 1 and a level 2? Okay, so the whole point is find out what one is, plug it into the other equation. Are you ready for a level 3? Or do we need to see another level 2? All right, so we beat level 1, we beat level 2. They're starting to get a little bit trickier, right? Let's move on to a level 3 then. And you're going to know right away why it's a level 3. Y equals 3x plus 2. And x plus 2y equals 11. So if it's an x coordinate and a y coordinate I'm looking for, number 1, I'm not given either. Okay? So like let's say, for example, if I were to cover this up, hey, y equals 3, woohoo, level 1. So Logan, I need you to look up here, please, and pick something and write it down. Okay? So y equals 3 means, great, that's what y equals. Y equals 3x, there's our level 2. I got to put that 3x right there in for y. But now, the y value that I'm given is not a number. It's not one term, it's 2, which we call an expression. So that requires a little bit more work. This whole thing is y? Yeah. So where do I put that whole thing? In the other equation for y, which is going to require a little bit of fancy work, which means it's 2 times the whole expression, which is 3x plus 2, and that should equal 11. The key is you have to go to the other equation with whatever you just got by itself. And we've been lucky so far. So far, one of the 2 equations has always been already ready, right? I bet you can guess what a level 4 is going to be. So now we have to solve for this x. This is going to be 6x plus 4. And I really shouldn't have to spend too much time going through this, because that's why we are masters in solving equations, because we use them so frequently. Oops, that's supposed to be 11. And that works out beautifully. Okay. I am halfway there. I know half of my answer, because my answer should consist of an x coordinate and a y coordinate, and I found the x out, and once I have one of them, I use it to find the other one. So you have a choice. Where are you going to put that x? I don't care. Put it here or here. You'll get the same answer. Which one's a little bit less work? The top. Because aren't we looking for y? And if y is already solved for, put 1 there and add 2 to it. Right? So the y value, and this part you can do in your head. I'll let you. I know that you know that 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So we have our answer using substitution. Are you following me? Because I'm going to kick it up one more level here in a minute. We have 5 levels I'm going to show you. So 1, 2, and 3, not too bad. All right, so a level 4, you'll know right away what qualifies it as a level 4 as soon as you see it. What do you notice right off the bat? Yep, they're both in standard. Okay, your voice got very deep for a minute there. I know. Alex answered, and it was okay. So one thing you need to make sure you understand is we can't even start this problem until one of the equations has one of its variables alone. And right now, none of them do. So right now I need you to put a little side note here. One of the equations must have one of its variables alone. Okay? And in all your level 1 and your level 2 and your level 3, they're given to you like wrapped up with a little bow that says, here you go, it's ready. This isn't ready. And what we've learned, if it's not ready, you got to get it ready, right? So remember how like in Unit 4 when I said you got to learn how to solve for this y, you're going to need it all through Unit 4 and all through Unit 5. You're seeing that now, right? The question is, which one should I solve for? Because I want to point out to you, like, let's just do a little side note here. So if I said x or 3x plus y equals 9 versus 3x minus 3y equals 12, okay? Solving this one for y with no coefficient, or actually a coefficient of 1 in front of it, this is a kind of a piece of cake, right? Because this equation means that y is solved for. This is 3x plus 9. I didn't have to do any dividing because that coefficient to y was a positive 1. That's a beautiful thing. Subtract and you're done. Is that going to be the case with this coefficient, though? No. So I want you to look at what's happening here. So as soon as I have this left and I have this over here, the variable that you're choosing to solve for means that that's the number that you're going to have to divide the other two by. And unless you love working with fractions and decimals, which I know you don't, you want to pick the right one. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. This one worked out because I'm choosing to solve this one for y. This works out good. This works out good. And I don't have a whole big mess. So, having kind of reminded you of that, I'll ask you again. If you had to pick one of these equations and one of the variables, which one would you choose to solve for? The first one, x. And I know that's weird. That goes against everything we've been doing for so long. I always y alone, get y alone, get y alone. Today you have to stop thinking that, because if you don't, you're going to create a bunch more work for yourself. Watch what happens when I add 2y to both sides. I get a whole brand new improved equation that is now x equals 2y minus 6. It's minus 6 because that 6 was negative. Man, that looks weird. It is not what we're used to seeing, but in substitution, it doesn't matter. You got to pick one. Okay? So here's a huge bit of advice. We kind of created a new and improved equation from this one. So this one's kind of dead. I don't really want to see it anymore because it's kind of like when you update your phone. Sometimes you want the most updated version. This is the old version. I don't need this one anymore. So put a little cross through it, right? Because I'll show you why. So now that I know what x is, now I'm a level 3 question, right? Because my x is alone, where do I put this x? Where do I put this expression? Into the other equation. Oh, hey, you want to know why I had you cross that out? Because there are kids who will rewrite this equation, and then they won't see a scratched out equation, and they'll go up here and put it in for x. The key is you take something from one equation, you have to put it in the other equation. So I mark that out because now the only place I can put that is the other one. So this equation is kind of useless to us now. I have the updated version. Put this in the other, and you should know what to do from there. Plus 6y equals 4. Here's how you know you did it right. Because you should only have y's or only x's. You can't have x's and y's because then it's like, what are you going to solve for? So now, kind of, let's breeze through this one. Okay, keep working on that. So that's going to give you 14y minus 24 equals 4. Add 24. It's going to go nice and evenly 2 times. Doing this in our sleep, okay? So if it's an x and a y I'm looking for, this time I found what first? The y. So where should I put the 2? In the second spot. And now I got to go use that to find the x. Now, here's why I didn't completely cross this all the way out. Because now you kind of have 3 equations instead of 2. You got this one that turned into that one and then this one. You can use any of the 3 that you want. And as long as you do your math right, you can't go wrong. So where am I going to put 2? However, there's one that stands out. What are you looking for? X. Oh, is x already solved for? Yeah, this x value right in this spot is going to be whatever the y value is times 2 minus 6. So let's put 2 right there. And what's 2 times 2? 4. And 4 minus 6 is negative 2. That's what this x and this y business means. It means that this y value, or the x value rather, is this y value times 2 minus 6. That's a level 4. Are you good with a level 4? Okay. All right, so we could take a look at level 5, and then I have 3 shortcuts for you, and then that's it. Are you following me? Am I going too fast? All right. This is probably as hard as it's going to get, and I don't feel the need to give you tons of these kinds. So this problem is going to say negative 12x plus 3y equals 21. Negative 4x minus 3y equals 8. And yes, they're both in standard form, but this time I don't have an easy one. I mean, I do, but you're going to have to look a little harder as to which one to choose. Oh my gosh, do I solve the first equation for x or y? Do I get this x alone, or do I get this y alone? You have to remember what, Alex? Go ahead.
I know what to do.
Okay, which one would you choose?
For the first one, I choose the y, and for the second one, I choose the x.
Okay, yeah. So it's either one or the other. You were right the very first time. This is going to be your best option. You want to know why? Because do you remember what I said about whatever one you choose? That's that number that has to go on the bottom. That's that number that has to go evenly into the other two. So let me just show this to you. If I chose to just solve this equation for x, you know what I'd get? I'd get 3y equals 12x plus 21, and then I would, sorry, not 3y. If I chose to solve this for x, I'd have this problem. What? I'd have like 1/4. I would have this, and that doesn't go evenly, and I don't want to deal with that. Because once I find that, I got to substitute it in the other problem still? No, thank you. So then don't choose that one. Oh, so you mean if I choose this one instead, when I do go to divide, I'll divide a negative 12 by 3? That'll work. I'll divide a 21 by 3? That'll work. So do you see, and actually let me make sure, I'm going to tell you what the last question on this test is. The last question on this test is going to give you a level 5 problem. And it's going to say, don't work out the answer. Just tell me, if you were to work out the answer, two things. Which equation would you choose to solve for which variable? Explain why. Do you want me to give you a word-for-word answer that you can write in your notes right now? Okay, the word-for-word answer was, I would choose to solve the first equation for y because, fill it in, when I went to divide, I would get whole numbers. Right? Does that make sense? I would choose the first equation for y because when I went to divide, or when I go to divide the other two, I wouldn't get a fraction, or I would get a whole number, or they would go evenly, whatever you want, okay? That would be a perfect answer, whole numbers. Okay? So we're not going to do that equation. Basically, let's just, I'll say 3y would be equal to 12x plus 21. And when you go to divide everything by 3, it's not going to give you some horrible looking equation. It's going to give you y equals 4x plus 7. And that's totally doable. What would you do? I'm going to kind of put a little squiggle through this, right? Because I don't want to be tempted to put that here. Because where does the 4x plus 7 really go? There. And then we finish it up like a level 2, 4, 3, 4, whatever. Okay? You ready for some shortcuts and we're done? All right. So shortcut number 1, and I actually don't want to tell you. I want to see if you can figure it out. There are 3 shortcuts. Okay? Here's the deal. This work is no joke. Like, that's a lot of work to show, isn't it? If you can recognize one of the 3 shortcuts, you don't have to show your work. You can put an answer, and I won't expect any work from you because I'll be like, oh, awesome. They realized that shortcut. So here's shortcut number 1. Y equals 2x minus 1. Y equals 2x plus 6. Shortcut number 1. If the whole purpose, and I'll have you do it, Haley. If the whole purpose is where do these 2 lines meet, give me the ordered pair. And you can kind of think back to anything we may have already learned. What would it be? Hey, those lines both have the same slope. They have different y-intercepts, which means they're starting in 2 different spots, but they're both going up 2 and over 1, which means what? They're parallel. And what's the definition of parallel lines? 2 lines that will never intersect. So if the purpose is solve this system, and you can't give me any points that go there, then what do we write when that happens in algebra? No solution. If I say solve the system and you say parallel, does that tell me what the solution is? No. It's kind of like true. What does true mean? Infinitely many. What does false mean? So I want you to kind of make yourself a note. Same slope with a different y y-intercept every single time will mean no solution because they are parallel and parallel lines will never touch. Shortcut number 1. Save yourself some work. Okay? Shortcut number 2. Y equals 1/3 x minus 5. Y equals 3/5 x minus 5. So if you know anything about graphing, this time what's the same? This time the y-intercept is the same. Save yourself some work. Where are they going to meet? It's not no solution. It's not infinitely many. They're just going to meet at the y-intercept this time. Which is what? You have to know the name of that point to get this right. 0, -5. 0, -5. It's the y-intercept, and the y-intercept always has a 0 in the x spot. So this one is the flip-flop of this, isn't it? It's different slope, but what? Same y-intercept, right? And then, so this is shortcut number 1. This is shortcut number 2. Shortcut number 3. I wish I had a better equation. Let's see, I was going to say, worked out for you. Let's do this. 2x equals y minus 1. And y equals 2x plus 1. At first, it may not seem like anything to you, but this is not solved for y. So let's just kind of take a minute and solve it for y by doing what? Adding 1. So this equation really turns into what? Y equals 2x plus 1. Hey, they're the same thing. And it's just not the same slope, or it's not just the same y-intercept. It's the same slope and the same y-intercept, which means it's the same line. Which means when I go to graph one line falls right on top of the other line. And where do they intersect? Everywhere. So what's the opposite of not intersecting anywhere? Everywhere. And how do we say they intersect everywhere? Infinitely many solutions. So here you could put same slope, same y-intercept, and that means infinitely many. They are the same line. They are on top of each other. They meet everywhere. It's the opposite of parallel lines. Do you understand